Hey, everybody, my name is Jordan, and we're going to be talking about using the force or a case based approach to product sense. And I promise that this isn't just an eye catching title, if it even caught your eye. For the Star Wars fans out there, there actually is a strong correlation. So, what we're going to go through today, we're going to do an intro on what product sense is. And then immediately following, we're going to go through three really quick cases on how to develop product sense at what I think are the three major levels of product development. The external context, which is what your external environment or the market is doing and how that influences your product sense. Strategic context, how the strategy of your company, your organization, even your team, how that influences product sense. And finally, how your team influences product sense. And for the team aspect, that's where I'm going to brag a little bit about my current team at Amazon and why, to be honest, if it wasn't for the individuals on my team, I don't think we'd be doing all the cool stuff that we're doing right now. And I think it's been, so far in my career, the best example of how your team context and respecting and honoring that actually makes you a better product manager. So with just to introduce myself really quickly, I'm not just that weird guy talking about using the force. I'm Jordan. I'm a PMT at Amazon. I love music, anime, and gaming, aka I am the ultimate introvert. I would love to debate somebody who's an even bigger introvert. Just kidding. And if you want to follow me on Twitter and look at all the weird things I'm into or find funny, you can follow me below here. So to dive right into it, what is product sense? And to give a textbook definition, I wanted to leverage a quote from Jules Walter, a very, very technical, dev-driven PM, actually, I might add, who recently just did a Medium post for Lenny's newsletter. And what his definition is product sense is the skill of consistently being able to craft products or make changes to existing products that have the intended impact on their users. That's perfect. Honestly, if you go into an interview and you define it that way, much like Jules, you'll become, a big time PM, and people go, "Oh, that's really cool." For individuals like me who are more experiential learners and maybe are not as scientifically disciplined as somebody like Jules, here's how I like to look at it. And I'm only calling it the Jordan definition because that's how I always thought about it in my head. So my definition is product sense is referencing a library of life and professional experiences to determine the best way to solve a user's problems. In other words, you have to feel it. And that seems all weird, right? Because as evidence, if you've seen The Force Awakens, it doesn't really make sense that, product sense is a feeling, but at the same time, you hear all these people telling you to develop it. I compare developing product sense to using the force, or as it's more commonly referenced in like athletics or dance or just in general entertainment performance, muscle memory. So when you look at maybe teammates like Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, right, who played in this recent Super Bowl, or if you look at a player like Steph Curry or Kevin Durant, who just consistently, whenever the game is on the line, they make that big time shot or that big time play. Well, you wonder, how are they able to do that so fast under all this pressure? And the reason why is, well, if you're thinking about all of that in the moment, you're going to screw up, right? In the same way you think about product sense. If you're always overanalyzing, overthinking, not only is the moment going to pass because you have to make these high velocity decisions, but you're not always going to make the best decisions. So the idea here is that as you develop product sense and get these repetitions in, you'll be able to, it'll feel like, I just breathed and it happened, right? I'm sure we've all met PMs like that, maybe are jealous of PMs like that, raising my hand there, right? But I've learned as I've developed as a PM that these are all skills that grow over time. So the good thing is that we'll all develop it and it's just muscle memory. So how do you develop that muscle memory? Well, it's a combination of life experiences and professional experiences. And one analogy I want to make here, if anybody's seen the film Slumdog Millionaire, where this individual gets on the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And as he's answering the questions, instead of thinking of it from your traditional textbook standpoint, the film is really brilliant in how it goes through all these different events in the main character's life that led him to understand and know the answer to the question. Very similar with product management and really any profession, right? You can apply this to anything. So your life experience, when it comes to your life experiences, product users, at least for now, are human. You're human. Your life experiences help shape what you build. At the same time, your professional experiences, the successes, the failures, the nuanced skills that maybe a mentor taught you, or all the cool stuff you learned at product school, those things help shape your decision making. It allows you to make faster decisions and better decisions. When I once interviewed, I didn't get the job with Honey. One thing the hiring manager said, which really like put a bug in my ear and actually set me on the road to becoming a better PM. He said the best PMs make the best decisions. In other words, they leverage that context and it informs their product sense, and then they make really good decisions over and over and over again, really, really rapidly. In other words, product sense is just leveraging context. Okay, case time. Let's get into it. So for the first case we're going to go through, we're going to talk about external context. And for that case study, I'm going to use my own startup, Seek, and how ignoring the external or market context really caused our team to, I'll just be honest, to fail. And it's all on me. This is right when you're a PM, if you do well, it looks really cool. And people go, wow, who built this? When it doesn't go well, people go, wow, who built this? Tone is everything, right? All jokes aside. So what was Seek Health? Seek Health was a platform for personal trainers to sell workout plans while managing their business, and for health enthusiasts to purchase workout plans while measuring their progress. And so this, what you see here, and this is the part that I guess is a precursor for why the external context matters. This was the mobile view for Seek, but we didn't start with mobile. I fought against it for so long. And I'll go into why ignoring that external context just put us in a really bad way. And I still not only feel bad about it, but I'm always working to make sure that everybody involved with the Seek team succeeds in the long run. In fact, that's a part of what's driving me to this day to be the best PM of all time. Hopefully, fingers crossed. There are a lot of great PMs. So Seek was interesting in that when you think about Seek's history, it really was a history of pivots, right? So when we started, I made the traditional first-time founder mistake of trying to boil the ocean. In other words, I tried to do everything. We're going to be the one-stop shop for medical professionals all the way down to just individuals who are trying to get healthier. Well, as you can see, that doesn't make sense. For all of you here watching this, you are much smarter than I am, much more astute. So you quickly see the problem here. Medical users are dramatically different from fitness users. Dramatically different, right? The way they make purchase decisions, the things they care about, the amount of time they have, all sorts of stuff, right? So I was just wrong there. And sadly, we spent about 2 years trying to pursue that. And right there, right then and there, just by not picking a focus given the external environment, in other words, selling into a hospital is very hard versus selling to trainers is a lot easier, especially if you're a bootstrap company that is self-funded. That was a key decision that, boom, right off the bat, wasted 2 years. So, okay, 2017, we got a little bit better. We got accepted into Cal Berkeley's iCourt program, where that after doing a series of lean style customer interviews, I'm sure you all have heard about those before. I can explain those at another time, or you can just ask me. But we realized, okay, electronic health records are out. We need to be a fitness solution that manages sports teams and gyms and manages workouts. Closer, but still very, very big. We got a lot better and realized after that iCourt experience in 2018 that, okay, our real focus here needs to be fitness, take sports away, take healthcare away, only focus on fitness, people who train people within a gym setting. So, okay, let's have a fitness solution that manages gyms and personal trainers. However, that was still not focused, as we were trying to create a full-scale B2B solution, almost like the NetSuite of gyms, while at the same time trying to build a mobile marketplace that was acting as, and stop me if you've heard this before, the Uber or DoorDash or whatever for personal trainers, right? Two, again, diverging strategies. So, and not only that, but I was ignoring mobile, even though, and I'll explain later, that was a big deal for trainers. So we finally realized, okay, we need to build a mobile fitness solution that connects personal trainers and their users. This was the first time I think we actually got to a level of clarity that was achievable, that was actionable, and that we were making progress towards. However, remember, I started we started Seek in 2015. So the fact that it took 4+ years to get there, that's really bad. I won't explain in this session, but when you're running a startup, if it takes that long to develop that type of traction, and it's more so due to you not staying focused, that's not good. That's a bad investment signal. So sadly, by 2020, we realized, oh, we're just a mobile personal training marketplace where trainers can create workout plans and sell them, lightweight, and in a lightweight way, manage their business on the go, AKA on mobile. And for people like us, we would buy these workout plans, and I don't see anybody in the gym with a big old MacBook trying to work out. So it would have been better on mobile. So notice this was all due to me I don't even want to say not caring. I cared about the external environment, but I didn't like the answers I got, which is crazy, right? And I'll explain why that becomes a big deal. So when I say I ignored that, I did not pay attention to the research. So we came up with a needs scale of like 1 to 5, what both fitness users and the trainers who serve them cared about. Because at Seek we were building a B2B2C marketplace, we had to both understand the needs of the supply side, trainers, and the demand side, people who are looking to be healthier. And if you notice, the number one thing the number one element that was, I guess, the highest need on aggregate between all three of our user types was content, right? Fitness users need more unique content to maybe adjust their unique way of working out or to continue being motivated, whatever. Gym trainers, while they may not need as much content because they're using a lot of different boilerplate workout plans while still customizing as a trainer goes on, they still need content, but they have infrastructure. Independent trainers needed that the most, right? Because they're always on the go. They don't belong or live at a facility. So if you've ever worked with a personal trainer, a lot of the battle is them just finding some areas to execute the workout and then making sure that content matches up with the medium. And so being able to do that fast and on the go is important. Of course, for independent trainers and gym trainers, it goes without saying. They want it to market their services so they could get as many clients as possible. Fitness users didn't care about it as much because as surveys showed, and as we see just anecdotally in our day-to-day lives, we may be over-marketed when it comes to fitness. So that wasn't as big of a need. And if you notice, tooling. So what I mean by tools are tools that allow trainers to create content or tools that allow fitness users to use that content. One tool you may see behind me that I really love, Peloton. As a fitness user, now I love Peloton for many reasons, but it's less about the tooling and more about the content. And this is what's weird. My life experience should have showed me that, hey, this is where fitness users want to go. They don't want to do all this other stuff. They want to do the same things that I'm doing now. See what I'm saying? I knew the external context. I ignored it. That's bad. That's arrogant. Always try to be humble as a PM. And if you notice something else, one cool insight is the user group that seemed to have the biggest need for what Seek was ultimately providing, independent trainers. Now, with these numbers, this seems obvious. This is why I'm saying that many times when you get data, there also is not just understanding what the data means, but being humble enough to accept it and being aggressive enough to continue and be disciplined on that path. I should have immediately gotten the team to focus on how do we support independent trainers and allow their experience to be not only seamless and fast, but to be run almost completely from mobile, almost like a lightweight QuickBooks for trainers. And it's sad that, again, I didn't reach that point until about here. So once again, even though the data was there, I didn't pay attention. I didn't pay attention to the price elasticity of trainers. In other words, most gyms aren't going to want to pay these large enterprise contracts like they are buying a NetSuite. They're actually going to want to pay for something that is more priced like a QuickBooks. But because, again, I wasn't focused, that model that we built wasn't as supportive of what the ultimate or best business model product model would have been. And so that actually taught me some hard lessons personally, because I consider that my first super official PM leadership job where the buck started and stopped with me. And so the first thing I learned was don't create a problem to solve. Remember, I thought, well, trainers, they need help marketing themselves and they want to create all their work on a laptop. They're not on the go. They just say they're on the go. That's a lie. That's creating a problem to solve. Focus on solving the problems that a quantifiably large amount of users want to solve. Do not make up problems that fit your narrative. As you can see, I was very delusional trying to fit my narrative. In fact, let me tell you something really funny. If we want to go down to the feature level of what these users wanted, the first primary use they had was trainers, both in the gym, outside of the gym, just wanted a mobile calendar where they could manage their clientele and their sessions. Why did I not do that? Because I was I was a solution looking for a problem. You've probably heard this before. The other thing that I did wrong, I did not stay focused on what we knew to be true. Space and time is limited, right? Unless you're Doctor Strange or my favorite Pokemon, the Pokemon Dialga, the time controlling Pokemon. So cool. Do not move on to the next problem until you solve the first problem. Again, I should have focused just on this, right? It's better I call it gradual escalation. Start small and then you'll grow larger, right? If you do all the little things, you'll be trusted with an increasingly large set of things. It's that way at startups, FANG companies, mid-sized companies, a company you start your own, and this is relevant to, frankly, all professions. So this isn't even just a product thing. Okay, woo! We went through a lot. So now let's talk about being more aware of strategic context. In this case, I'm going to use the company where, frankly, I learned all my best product fundamentals, but maybe was not mature enough at the time to understand how to best apply them at that time. And that case is actually Chegg. So when I mentioned not having as much maturity to understand, how to utilize these best practices I was learning, Dan Rosenzweig, and I shouldn't just give credit to Dan, the CEO at the time, and Dwayne Gibson Biddle, of course. If you want to be in product, you've probably seen Gibson Biddle's leadership series or read his content or been to an event of his. I think a framework that was really, really powerful for me, and I know a lot of us who started our careers at Chegg during this time, this framework is burned into our brains. How companies make decisions, right? Vision. What problem are we trying to solve? That's how companies are making these large scale and frankly strategic decisions. And then when they're going through this mental model, they then ask, okay, let's talk about the opportunity. Is it big enough to matter? Remember that earlier case with Seek, where I said that your external environment and the area you operate in really should, understanding that will help you become better at knowing what problems to solve in the space? This is why. So notice, even though I knew that was the case, I didn't have as much sophistication understanding why until, frankly, maybe, a couple years ago. And then at a strategic level, what does success look like? In other words, if we do a good job staying focused on this problem that we're trying to solve in our space, what would success look like from a strategic standpoint? And then down to the tactical level, and for the plan, how will we achieve or measure that success? Very obvious, right? What problem are we trying to solve? Is it big enough to matter? What does success look like? How do we achieve success? How do we measure success? Anybody can regurgitate that. However, there are nuances there at the strategic level that I wasn't as aware of that, frankly, I think if I had done it better, would my career have turned out much different? Maybe not, but I do think I would have probably stressed a lot less people out. So apologies for all those people at Chegg when I was starting out my career who were probably wondering, who's this crazy manic guy running around? But nonetheless, let's talk about that. So I guess in a nutshell, at that time, Chegg was trying to grow digitally, right? If anybody knows about Chegg, it was a textbook rental company. That was how it started. Now it's known as frankly, the de facto solution for all of a student's needs. So really, Chegg was mainly earning its keep in this area. There was a nascent study help division that later got bigger. There was a college admissions area where, after acquiring a company called Zench, that was a huge, I think, strategic, acquisition for Chegg that allowed them to reach high school students. That was actually the team I was on. And then we were starting to get better at ads. And what I'm really proud of Chegg for, that I want to give them a shout out for, even now that I'm away from it. And actually, I know Amazon practices this as well. Chegg was really ahead of the game on how do we give ads that are personalized, but also do not come off as predatory and use the least amount of user data while retaining maximum personalization. I thought that was really beautiful. back in the day. So I just wanted to digress there. However, the reason why Chegg was trying to grow beyond textbooks is because there were about almost 65 million in approximate losses in 2014 via textbooks as the primary revenue source. A lot of that was because we were giving free shipping, and the game was for some students reading textbooks, the stuff they bought from us didn't always cover or exceed enough the cost of just shipping that stuff to them, especially because we did free shipping to the customer, and then of course allowing the customer to ship it back to us with a prepaid sticker. So that was where our leadership team started focusing on, okay, what are some more higher margin businesses that we can focus on? And so as they were doing that, Chegg Study was actually starting to do really well, right? It was a great product. I think they were building it out, was very early. At the same time, the high school business, I had identified that there was an opportunity there with scholarships. And so being selfish, right? Because you know how it is, we're all trying to get ahead in our careers, right? Like, I'm not going to even front. I was trying to get ahead in my career. I saw an opportunity. I thought, man, this can take us to the top, right? And here's why. I noticed that scholarships was our number 2 highest organic acquisition funnel. I noticed that, as I mentioned, scholarships had room to grow. It was treated more as a marketing tool at the time, but I saw that, wow, it could be that much more, both for students and for the brands and colleges that use it. It was easy to market. Think about it. I don't think anybody would pass up, hey, you don't have to pay anything, but you have an opportunity to earn more money for college, since college is prohibitively expensive most of the time. And finally, reason 4, there was important data that we were able to collect via scholarships, not to take advantage of students, but actually to enhance the user experience for students and to create, as Amazon has mentioned, a virtuous cycle that keeps users coming back and keeps them engaged and retains them on our platform, right? So it made sense on its face. And in doing so, I just went straight into it. So you notice, I'm going to go back really quickly. Did you notice that nothing I mentioned in my reasons for why I wanted to grow scholarships and why I advocated for it was trying to line up here? It was just, hey, I'm on this team. I want to grow team big, grow product big. That's it. That was not sophisticated at all, right? That was, as the memes say, that was not very Gucci of me, right? And so even though we grew our database from about 400 million in available awards to 4.6 billion, even though we had a scholarship for every major or for every U.S. college, even down to community colleges, I might add, which I want to give a shout out to my teammates in India who were helping me with this, Ajay and Broja. Those two dudes were like a literal 2-man team, and we got a lot done. I'm really proud of that. We were able to expose students to brands like Adobe and Semester at Sea. So we not only were able to be a good marketing partner for big brands, we were able to do so in a way that benefited students. And it drove millions of dollars in revenue. And you can see the scholarships page. If you go to chegg.com/scholarships, I'm really proud to say that as that was getting built up as a business and as it was transitioning from being an acquired company's brand to being a Chegg brand, I was there for all of it, got to work with our creative director, Jess, and rebranding it. It was just really good, real positive vibes, right? So, however, there was a problem here. So, as I mentioned here, I succeeded, but I failed. So what does that mean? So I didn't want to display the actual percentages because I know that with Chegg being a public company, I know there's, and still being a public company, I didn't want to necessarily give away the secret sauce, but I just want to show a visual representation of how even though I did a good job and succeeded, I failed. So miscellaneous, this is just pointing to revenue that this is like a very small sliver. These are things that were not related to scholarships, Chegg Study, or textbooks. Really, Chegg Study and scholarships was lumped in, and you see it still reported as digital revenue. I broke it out just to show you how even when I made this big bet on myself, how it still didn't really nail it, right? Textbooks, that was our bread and butter. This over time, in fact, now textbooks do not represent nearly as much of Chegg revenue. In fact, most of it's driven by Chegg Study. But I just wanted to show you that even when maxing out, in other words, taking scholarships to the moon, as they would say, it still paled in comparison to where Chegg Study was at the time in 2014, and frankly, where Chegg Study is now. In fact, scholarships has plateaued and that the max growth that the team and I were able to achieve, it's kind of holding flat there or growing incrementally, which is not bad. And that's actually where I want to talk about some painful lessons here and maybe share some stories. So, one lesson I learned in terms of you need to understand the strategic context. Remember, I mentioned that the strategy here was trying to move into digital. And where they were really trying to go is go into digital with study. The reason why they were trying to do this, and this is where, again, this was back literally my first job out of college. So I want to take a step back to show how inexperienced I was and how these lessons or how this situation burned these lessons into my brain. So one, don't fight. Make sure your product is complementary to the strategy. In other words, even though I may have had a good idea in a vacuum, it was not complementary to where the rest of the organization was going, which as a result, I was pursuing this on my own. It caused a lot of thrash, a lot of strife. And whenever I would talk to people about it or try to get help, it was usually taking them away from what they needed to do. And even though there was help there, again, it still succeeded. Now that I'm more mature, I realize that's a very inefficient way to build a product. And frankly, it brings the company down. I should have known that. Also, as I mentioned, know the ceiling. You'll see that back here, I grew scholarships, but it peaked out here. I should have known that that was always going to be the peak of scholarships. There are only so many people trying to get into college, only so many students who are using scholarships, and only so much money available, right? However, there are always going to be classes. There are way more classes than there are scholarships and scholarship opportunities. So I should have known, what is my product ceiling? And then I would have known, okay, maybe pursue scholarships, but know at a certain point when to move on to something else or to pivot to something else. And this is where this was something that was actually in my review. I won't reveal the manager who said this, but this individual told me that I needed to work on at the time organizational awareness. And I was like, what the beep is that? That doesn't make any sense. What is organizational awareness, right? And what that actually means is that even if your idea is amazing, you have to convince others in your org, your company, your team, whatever it is. And not only that, but you have to observe the chain of command, right? Of course, I know companies like to say, oh, we're flat, it doesn't matter. Listen, somebody's writing your checks and somebody decides whether you get hired, fired, or promoted. So make sure that you're following the chain of command before just trying to go up to some executive and go, hey, I want to do this. Now, the executives at Chegg are very gracious about this. I think a lot of it was because it was like, this guy does not know what he's doing. He's a new grad. He has energy. So again, I appreciate their graciousness. But that was just very wrong of me, and I was not organizationally aware. And finally, be a good teammate. Remember how I mentioned pursuing these ideas were taking people away from their actual work? Well, that's what I mean. Your goals for your product should match the goals of your team. In other words, as you're developing a product, you need to understand these the strategic context and these main lessons to make sure that when you make a decision, you're not fighting inertia. You understand the growth ceiling, and it's not counterintuitive to the company strategy. You're organizationally aware of how all the different layers of your organization see your product or your initiative, and then you're working well with your team to achieve that goal in a way that benefits everybody and not just yourself. Because again, hand raised, I was being very selfish. So finally, I want to close this out with talking about team context. So in this case, we are going to talk about my current team, Amazon. So what I've noticed is daunting for many new Amazon employees is how highly matrixed Amazon is, particularly if you're in product. I'm on a team that does what you call foundational technology. So we actually have to speak with engineering, finance, accounting, business, program management, and different product teams. Not just different product teams, but all these different teams across different businesses and across different levels of the organization, right? In fact, I'll be honest with you, it's very mind-boggling and impressive how we're able to run and do so and still be very nimble despite being a much larger company, right? And to that point, even the only reason I'm mentioning this is because remember how we're talking about context and understanding both your external and your strategic context. Strategically, I have to have much more alignment and be more organizationally aware, right? Like I learned from Chegg, with all these different types of individuals, right? And at a team level, we have a couple of tech leads, a TPM, and some SDMs or software development managers. And I'm laying out these team members because I want to show you how complementary you end up needing to be, right? So you have your SDMs, they're responsible for managing and co-planning the roadmap and engineering deliverables. So I work with our SDMs to figure out what is our roadmap going to be? What are the technical implications? How does this affect timing? Do we have the resources to be able to do it? What are the trade-offs? How do I communicate these trade-offs, right? It does not make sense for me to proceed with anything until making sure that I'm in alignment with my teammates here. Unlike Chegg, where I just said, well, I don't care. I know it's the right thing to do, so I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, now we have our tech lead. So we have two really, really good tech leads. And the reason I wanted to mention them is because, one, they're responsible for leading architecture roadmaps and acting as a check and balance between the product and business outcomes and engineering realities. In other words, your tech leads usually know where all the tech debt is buried. They know why certain technical decisions were made and trade-offs. And I find that, frankly, when I joined my team, because it is a highly technical product that has both back office and end user implications. If it wasn't for my tech leads, I would still be drowning to this day. And so working with our tech leads and understanding where their expertise lies and where my expertise was, that again really helped my progress, and I think has created nice psychological safety that makes us a very productive team despite running very lean. And in the middle, you have your technical program manager, who is the technical voice informing backend system design and planning reasonable development timelines. So they're in an interesting way, very similar to tech leads, but they're more in alignment with the product side of the house, where we are trying to develop these roadmaps and make sure that what we are doing is not creating some crazy load on our SDMs, or what our tech leads are worried about isn't interfering with or slowing down or ruining critical infrastructure or architecture, right? And so I want to take a stop here really quickly, because I mentioned that unlike my time at Chegg, where I was just trying to be the best me I could be, well, as you advance and as you evolve as a product manager, a product leader, and you're developing your product sense, all that tactical stuff I mentioned in the first two cases, you need that, right? That's table stakes. But to grow as a leader, you need to be really good at being a complementary piece to all your teammates. In other words, I'm not going to be as technical as our tech leads, okay? I call one of our tech leads Vision because this brother really is like Vision from the Avengers. He's literally like a walking computer. He created a freaking personal assistant. Those digital AI personal assistants when he was in kindergarten, okay? I thought my story was impressive, getting exposed to tech at age 10. Nah, man. There's always going to be somebody out there more technical than you. So me trying to go toe-to-toe with them on the technical side, that doesn't make sense. I need to be more complimentary and instead help surface what are the customers saying, what are some UI UX ramifications of what we're doing, and how is this still contributing to the ultimate strategic goal in our roadmap. That's how I get in, and that's how I get in where I fit in a way that is complementary and helpful to our tech leads who are more in the weeds of the technical side. With our SDMs, you know how it is. Anybody who's worked with developers, especially at bigger companies, they're all trying to log their points, right? So instead of trying to interfere with that and go, hey, can you also go to this meeting? Well, I'm not going to be able to get in the guts and start hammering out configurations. Maybe Jules can, because Jules is, and he was an ex-dev before he became a PM. That's not my ministry, as a coach of mine would want to say, right? So my job is just to identify, surface, and then unblock any roadblocks that keep developers from being able to build. And then with our TPM, our program manager, you may not experience program managers as much until you get to larger companies, but I find that TPMs, working with them is, again, they're usually going to be a bit more on the technical side, but they are going to be just as focused on deadlines and deliverables as you are. So my job there is to figure out, okay, what are some of the business implications that maybe the TPM didn't hear because the TPM was trying to just set up a good system design or was working on a timeline for another major project? How do I stay ahead of the ball? And as they teach at Amazon, how do you peek around corners? So that way the TPM and you are working in a very symbiotic way. But notice, whenever I interact with any of these individuals, my role, the way I address them, has to change. And not change because I'm fake, but if you're a good PM, you're a master. Remember, we talked about this. You're a master of context. whatever the team context is, you need to hone in on that and make sure that you're doing a good job on that. So let's talk about some lessons here, right? So I mentioned this, you need to fill a need. A good PM teammate doesn't just add to camaraderie. In other words, you're not just sending out positive vibes. You're making sure that what you are doing is filling a team need. Let's go back really quickly. In other words, when I interact with an individual here, right? Still got to know the external environment, like I mentioned at the top. Still have to understand the strategic goal, not just for my team, but for these teams. And I actually have to find the equilibrium point between the two. And then what is the delta between the desired equilibrium point and where we are at that moment, right? And to that point, you also want to buy in. This is something that, hey, hand up, confession, I was not as good at, right? I was always chasing, how do I get better? How do I be the best? How do I be my best? And I think that really sacrificed through a lot of jobs I had. Even though I developed camaraderie on a personal level, I didn't develop as much professional camaraderie. And remember I mentioned the connections between teammates? Like I said, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, or the connection that Draymond Green, Steph Curry, and Klay Thompson have. All of that is developed by just spending time. You have to spend time together. And I'll be honest with you, investing my time into the team, making sure I'm being a good teammate, having the conversation, showing up, doing what I need to do to like sacrifice for the team, it's not only created psychological safety, but it's opened up opportunities for me to get help and to learn more. And it's opened up opportunities also for me to maybe contribute my expertise to help raise the relative ceiling of the team, right? So it's a two-way street. And also my final kind of team context lesson here, head on a swivel. So the best PMs understand what at their company makes their team go and what makes it stop and when to choose either direction. In other words, going back to understanding your team, if you feel a need and you're buying in, over time, you'll start understanding, okay, I shouldn't even ask my devs about this because I know what the answer is going to be. Or, hey, if I make this decision, that's going to really make things hard for them. I would be a jerk if I did that. Or, oh, our tech lead, she told me that I need to follow up on this particular configuration. I need to do that, right? If I'm not doing that and not getting ahead, that could block development later on down the line. This really is what I walked onto Howard's football team back when I was an undergrad, Howard University. And one of our coaches, Coach Chinnis Berry, who is now the head coach at Benedict College, he used to call it doing your 111. On offense, there are 11 players. And what's interesting about offense relative to defense is if one person messes up, the whole play and chance of success almost die instantly. Whereas, in fact, offense needs all 11 people to be doing their job. It's the same way with your team context. It's not about doing everybody else's job as a PM, even though you may want to do that. It's about just doing your job in that moment, right? Or as The Rock said back in the early WWE days, know your role and shut your mouth. Now, it's not that bad. You do need to speak, but nonetheless, making sure that you're being a good teammate while keeping into consideration your external environment as well as the strategic environment that you're living in, I guarantee you that your product sense, you'll know not just the right decision to make, but you'll be able to make it before anybody else even knows that a problem exists. And with that, I want to thank everybody. Again, I'm talking to everybody here as a peer. We are probably going to work together soon, right? If statistics hold up. So looking forward to working with you in the future. And I hope everybody has a good day. Take it easy.